The black rabbit wielded his war hammer, and with a single swing, he smashed the small entrance, shattering the huge boulder into pieces. Now in front of Sejun, there stood a large entrance. As Sejun observed, he praised the black rabbit for his strength and asked if he could enter the hole and explore it. The black rabbit eagerly tried to enter the cave but quickly retreated, unable to see anything in the darkness. He explained that it was too dark inside for him to venture in and explore. Upon hearing this, Sejun found himself in a dilemma. Despite securing the entrance, they couldn't explore further because it was too risky to dive into pitch darkness underwater. The black rabbit agreed with Sejun's concern, so Sejun turned to Theo and asked if he had any item that could help the black rabbit see in the dark. Theo, who was occupied playing with baby rabbits, immediately began rummaging through his bag. He admitted he didn't have such an item but offered to find one if Sejun directed him to do so. As Theo emptied his bag, tower coins, pouches, and a strange purple necklace fell out. Sejun noticed the necklace and, intrigued, picked it up. Upon checking its status window, he learned it was an unappraised item with a scratched jewel. Sejun decided to seek help from the tower manager, just like they did with the straw hat. Aileen agreed to assist, and after receiving a basket of cherry tomatoes from San, began appraising the necklace. After a while, the rusty, scratched necklace transformed into a beautiful golden one. Sejun was astonished by the transformation, and the system informed him that it was the Necklace of Light, a rank C item. When worn, it emitted a bright light, illuminating the surroundings. The higher the user's level, the brighter the light it emits. Sejun couldn't believe his luck in finding the exact item they needed. Even the black rabbit was excited, knowing he could now embark on an underwater adventure. Curious, Theo asked if the item was helpful, expressing his desire to remain as Sales Cat Theo for a little longer. Sejun, holding Theo's paw, realized Theo indeed had a knack for finding rare and valuable items. Thus, Sejun officially appointed Theo as Sales Cat Theo forever, responsible for distributing the crops. Theo, initially confused, was overjoyed at the promotion. Sejun explained that Theo's ability to find rare items earned him the title, making him an invaluable member of the team. Theo couldn't believe he had been promoted to the position of Sales Cat. He thought about how he would always be Sales Cat Theo and could enjoy the benefits forever. But this wasn't the end of his surprises. Sejun was so happy with Theo's performance that he promoted him to the position of temporary president just for the day. He was thrilled with how Theo had secured the light necklace. Theo was overjoyed and started dancing, raising his hand in celebration. Taking advantage of his newfound authority as president, Theo commanded the black rabbit to use the necklace to fetch a lot of delicious fish from the pond. The black rabbit, showing respect, saluted and agreed to do so after a while. Soon we saw Sejun wearing the necklace. As soon as he put it on, the necklace emitted a soft light that amazed Sejun. He realized that the mana level of the user affected the brightness of the light. He then asked the black rabbit to try the necklace. When the black rabbit wore it, the light became so bright that it almost blinded Sejun. Despite feeling frustrated and a bit jealous, Sejun was relieved that at least the problem of seeing in the dark would be solved. Later, Sejun made a rope out of onion leaves and tied it around the black rabbit. He instructed him to be safe and not to do anything reckless, holding the rope tightly. Sejun explained that if the black rabbit couldn't breathe underwater or encountered any danger, he should pull the rope twice, and Sejun would come to help. The black rabbit eagerly agreed. Before diving into the pond, Sejun reminded him to take his dagger and pouch. He explained that the hammer would be difficult to swing underwater and that if the black rabbit found anything, he could store it in the pouch. With the dagger in the pouch, the black rabbit was fully prepared to dive. Sejun wished him well once again, reminding him to be careful. The black rabbit gave a warm thumbs up, assuring Sejun that he would take care. The black rabbit took a deep breath and plunged into the pond. He swam hurriedly through the hole. After swimming for a while, he finally spotted a bright light at the tunnel's end. Hastily, he sped up, gripping the tunnel's rock and dashing towards the exit. Eventually, he reached it. In the deeper area, he was amazed. Before him lay an entire underwater world, deep and mysterious. It felt like floating in a galaxy, surrounded by thousands of fish and strange sea creatures. He even spotted a giant whale with a gem on its head. But then he noticed something troubling. Near the exit, all the fish and sea monsters lay dead. He realized it was because of the poisonous soup Sejun accidentally dropped in the pond. Determined, he got to work. He took out Sejun's dagger, approached a large fish, and swiftly began butchering it. As he cut into the fish's stomach, he discovered something strange. A golden light emanated from within, followed by a mysterious golden liquid. Curious, he retrieved the liquid, thinking of impressing Sejun with it. He then tied the big fish with an onion rope. Unaware, the scent of blood attracted something ominous. Startled, he turned to see a large shark charging towards him, its mouth full of razor-sharp teeth. The black rabbit narrowly dodged the shark's attack, but the shark's true target was the fish. It took a big bite, creating a massive wave that knocked the black rabbit back. The rope tied around him tightened, making it hard to breathe. Thankfully, the shark left after its meal, but the black rabbit was left unconscious, sinking into the ocean's darkness. Despite his fading strength, he managed to signal for help by pulling the rope twice. Outside, Sejun and the others sprang into action. With Sejun leading, they pulled with all their might. Finally, after much effort, they brought the black rabbit to safety. To Sejun's dismay, the black rabbit remained unconscious. Panic set in as Sejun gently cradled him, pleading for him to wake up. Despite their efforts, the black rabbit showed no signs of stirring, leaving everyone worried and anxious, from the smallest bee to the stoutest rabbit. Sejun's cries echoed, desperate for his friend to come back to consciousness. Sejun panicked as he yelled at the black rabbit to wake up next to him. Worried, Theo asked what they should do now. Papa and Mom rabbits also rushed to the scene to check on their son. Sejun gave his straw hat to the queen bee to hold for a second while all the rabbits anxiously watched him. The mother rabbit was already crying, while the chunky rabbit tried to stop his younger siblings from seeing the scene. Sejun went with the classic mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, which honestly made him look like a rabbit molester. However, before he could do anything, the black rabbit suddenly spat out the water in his belly at Sejun and woke up. Everyone was overjoyed that the black rabbit was awake, and his parents hugged him in relief. Meanwhile, Sejun spat out the salty water that got into his mouth because of the rabbit fountain. He then turned to his friend and asked him if he was fine, and the black rabbit said something angrily. Sejun understood and told him to stop complaining, but the black rabbit didn't seem too happy. Meanwhile, Aileen watched everything through her magic crystal and fangirled over Sejun as always. He complained that he almost sacrificed his first kiss to save the black rabbit, who was being ungrateful, but then he put back his hat on and said it was a relief that he was fine. He then asked him why the water was so salty, and Aileen answered the question. She told Sejun that apparently, the black rabbit was in the Sea of Dimensions. He was curious about this new term, and Aileen explained that the Sea of Dimensions is something that is in between the floors of the tower. She explained that there are many dangerous and scary underwater monsters there, which is why one can only rely on the passageways to safely move through the floors. However, sometimes there are water holes on some floors that can lead to the Sea of Dimensions, and this pond is one such hole. Aileen then explained that there are different types of aquatic creatures in the Sea of Dimensions, and among them, quite a few are very tasty as well. Sejun finally understood why sea creatures were popping out of a freshwater pond. He then turned to the black rabbit and asked him if there were any edible-looking fish in the sea. The black rabbit searched inside his pouch to give Sejun what he found. He presented to him the insides of the giant electric eel. Sejun held it, wondering what was special about it. The information window for the item opened up, which told him that these were the insides of an electric eel that had lived for 1,000 years, and they shone with the power of electricity. Upon consuming this, the user would be able to gain the skills of rain and thunder. However, there were conditions to its usage too. Only the person who defeated the giant electric eel could use it. Sejun was given credit for murdering the eel. Also, he needed to have mana above 10 to consume this great item. Sejun was shocked to read this and asked his rabbit friend if he really found a giant electric eel. He proudly explained how big it was. On the other hand, Theo only had one question. Is the eel delicious? To give him an answer, the black rabbit pulled out the green onion rope, and the head of the giant electric eel he tied to it earlier came out of the water. As the eel head emerged from the pond with a great splash, Sejun and everyone else were equally amazed to see the sight. Not only that, a lot of piranha and crayfish also jumped out of the water and started swimming in the pond again. Sejun was really happy to see this, and he thought that they were all lured here by the oily scent of the electric eel head. He lifted the black rabbit high in the air, praising him for bringing back their source of protein. Other rabbits also congratulated him. Sejun then ordered the rabbits to get the fire going because they were going to have a meaty feast. Soon after, Sejun started cooking a variety of dishes for the feast. While the stew was boiling in the cave, he received shocking news outside. He had just learned that his family was in danger, and he couldn't believe it. Theo revealed that Kim Dong-shik had told him about Sejun's family being in danger and promised to protect them. Sejin complained that his cherry tomatoes had become more popular on Earth than he had ever imagined. Sejin had never thought that his family would be in danger because of his success, and he was worried about them. He then asked Theo to find out some detailed information about how Dongshik was protecting his family the next time he went down to the 38th floor. Sejin then thought about returning the favor to Dongshik. Theo told him that Dongshik liked cherry tomatoes, so that could be a good repayment. Sejin said that it was perfect and that along with the cherry tomatoes, he would gift him other crops too. With that, Theo got on his lap and asked him to feed him some churro as his sales cap privilege. Sejin decided to give him 2 churros instead because of his good work. But as he was taking them out of his pocket, the insides of the electric eel fell out. Sejin claimed that he had forgotten all about it while he was catching fish. He then said that he could even get a skill upon consuming it. Theo didn't really care much about the skill, but he still asked for formality. Sejin replied that the information window said it was a skill called Rain and Thunder, which must be electric. Theo was shocked to hear this and exclaimed that it was like static electricity. He jumped backward and got into a high alert position while telling Sejin that he hated static because it made his fur stiff and crinkly. Sejin just laughed and teased the cat, saying that he already liked it. He then said that after coming into the tower, he had only learned farming skills, but this would be the first time he would learn another type of skill. He laughed, saying that he finally felt like an adventurer now. Theo was quick to give him a reality check and said that he had barely gotten out of the cave. He then asked Sejin why he was not eating the insides in that case because the sooner he got a skill, the better it would be for him. Sejin sadly told him that he couldn't eat it right now because he lacked the mana for it. He cried as he showed that his current mana was only 8.05, and he needed a minimum mana of 10 to gain a skill from the insides of the electric eel. Theo suddenly burst out laughing and said that Sejin didn't have mana. He called him weak and pathetic as he rolled on the floor holding his belly. Sejin was furious at this and asked him how high his mana was. Theo just turned his butt toward him as he declared that he wouldn't reveal that number. Sejin had a way of finding out, and he put the necklace of light around Theo's neck sneakily to judge his mana by the amount of light it radiated. Well, the light was too bright, and Sejin was immediately on his knees as he realized that after a rabbit, he got defeated by a cat too. On the other hand, Theo had some newfound confidence and declared that he would protect Sejin from now on. Quang also saw the necklace glowing, and he approached Sejin to try it out too, but he didn't want to be any more depressed and pathetic than he already was, so he didn't let him try it. Meanwhile, the Minotaur couple was enjoying the green onion leaves, and the wolves were enjoying the fish. Elka thanked the cart rabbit for delivering the food while the rest of the adult rabbits were busy eating. Sejin approached the wolves and asked them if the food was to their liking. They immediately fell to their knees, still calling him the mighty black dragon because Sejin never told them the truth. He told them to stop being so formal and enjoy their food. The wolves said that the food he was sharing with them was really delicious, and it showed how immeasurable his grace was. All 2 of them were busy praising and flattering him. Sejin noticed that their leader, Elka, didn't look so good. He understood that Elka was thinking about his tribe members on the 85th floor. The wolf leader told Sejin that he was right and apologized for worrying even after receiving his word. Sejin told him not to worry about anything because he would be able to meet his tribe members soon. He knew that the blue moon was coming up in a few days, so the wolves would have to go back home to the 85th floor. Sejin promised to give them a lot of fish for their tribe members to eat, and Elka once again fell to his knees to thank him. Sejin declared that it was time to plant and harvest the crops that had been delayed and left that to his trusted sales cat. Theo took charge and led the wolves to their new job. After that, Sejin went to the Minotaur and told them that they should get ready too because there was somewhere they must go tomorrow. He wanted both of them to guide him there. Ox number 3 asked Sejin where they were going, and he acted smug for a while before declaring that they were going to collect a debt from the Minotaur King. This came as the biggest shock for the Minotaur couple. Near the waypoint of the 99th floor, the Minotaur were having a feast of the green onion leaves their king stole. They exclaimed that it had been too long since they ate such tasty grass and screamed in joy. But their leader sat on his throne with his hand to his face. The Minotaur King knew that he messed up big time, and he was depressed because of it. He had just gone to the territory border to look for ox number 3 and ox number 4. He saw the giant crimson bear and some other creatures there too. But he got too excited after seeing the heap of tasty grass and forgot his mission. So while everyone watched him dumbfounded, he made a fool of himself by eating the grass like a true glutton. The Minotaur King felt that he should be disqualified as a leader and a warrior for doing something so shameful. However, he also gained something very important from this trip. He thought that given the neatly planted grass, the place was certainly a field, and he wondered if the beings who were with the giant crimson bear raised them. He could only remember a hazy vision of them, and thought that there was one face there that he recognized. Suddenly, it clicked on him, and he recognized the father farmer rabbit. He thought that the rabbit must be the owner of the field. The Minotaur King had no idea what the white farmer rabbit was doing with the crimson bear, but he found it interesting as he munched the green onion leaves. The Minotaur King thought to himself that he shouldn't steal the belongings of small monsters. The blue moon was coming soon, and then the time allowed for him to leave the waypoint would be reset. As the one protecting the entrance to the 99th floor, he was only allowed to be away from the waypoint for just 1 hour. The Minotaur King knew that it was a short time, but he planned to use it to visit the field again and pay the price of the grass he took from the white farmer rabbits. He was excited that this was his chance to negotiate for more good quality grass too. However, the realization hit him immediately. He had nothing to pay them with. Behind him, a giant crystal gleamed as if it would serve a purpose in the future. On Sejin's farm, everyone got back to work. The mother rabbit and sickle rabbit harvested the green onion stems while the baby rabbits carried them away. The father rabbit watered plants with his golden watering can, and Sejin worked with magical cherry tomatoes. He told the sickle rabbit and the queen bee that since he was leaving the cave for a while, he wanted to harvest as much as possible before leaving. Feeling hot and sweaty, he asked the queen bee to hold his hat for a while, and she happily obliged. Continuing to harvest tomatoes with his dagger, Sejin suddenly received a system message. It said he had harvested 9 well-ripened cherry tomatoes at once, gaining more job experience and leveling up from grade D to grade C as a tower farmer. Sejin couldn't believe it, realizing he hadn't noticed his job grade was close to leveling up. The system informed him that as his job grade increased, his job characteristics improved. This time, his closeness with nature improved, awakening one of his hidden talents, Friend of Nature. Sejin was shocked that he could now communicate with animals and plants, and wondered if the system was telling the truth. When he called out to the father rabbit, who was harvesting crops, and the father rabbit responded, Sejin fell to the ground in shock. After recovering, he confirmed with the father rabbit that he understood him. The sickle rabbit, witnessing this, called Sejin uncle, and he embraced her, asking her to call him uncle again. Realizing Sejin could understand them, the animals gathered around him in excitement. The mother rabbit questioned the father rabbit if Sejin had eaten something strange, but he assured her he hadn't. Sejin addressed all the animals, acknowledging their frustration with the communication barrier and expressing his joy that it was now gone. The queen bee nervously approached Sejin, asking if he could understand her too. Sejin reassured her, and she happily hugged him, followed by her army of kids. Sejin then decided to share the good news with those outside the cave and was given a hat by the father rabbit. As he put it on, he received another system message, indicating that the artifact he had resonated with his job advancement, and his straw hat had also been upgraded. Sejin discovered that the limitations of the straw hat had been released, and all its skills, including protection of Mother Earth and wishing for a good harvest, had leveled up. He also gained a new skill, Growth Promoter Level 1, which boosted the growth rate of crops for a week without side effects. Excited by this new skill, Sejin exclaimed about its awesome effect. He had an idea of how to utilize it and ventured outside the cave. Sejin planted some sprouts of a special crop he hadn't harvested before, the sweet potato sun pumpkin. Placing the sprouts into the ground, he gained some job experience and skill proficiency, leveling up his sowing skill to level 3, which decreased the chances of the sweet potatoes rotting. Using his growth promoter skill on the plants, a golden light enveloped them, and the system informed him of an increased growth rate for the sweet potatoes for a week. Sejin was pleased with the timing of planting the sweet potato sun pumpkin outside the cave, thanks to his new skill. He anticipated that the growth promoter skill would help the plants take root quickly and stabilize them. Since space was limited on his outdoor farm, he planted them near the green onions, thinking it should be fine. Luckily, the green onions nearby suddenly glowed, and the sweet potato sun pumpkin plants began vibrating. In an instant, they grew significantly, surprising Sejin. He wondered if this was solely the effect of the growth promoter skill, but the system corrected him. The skill wishing for a good harvest had been activated on the green onion field, boosting the yield of the sweet potatoes by 50% until its effect ended. Thankful for this unexpected bonus, Sejin exclaimed about harvesting the sweet potatoes even faster. However, his attention was quickly diverted by Kwang's scream. Turning around, he saw the baby crimson bear ready to pounce on him. Kwang, the bear cub, called Sejin Dad as he leaped onto him. Sejin could only scream in horror as they fell to the ground. The bear cub, still calling him Dad, asked if what the rabbit said was true and if Sejin could understand him now. Sejin was still processing this when Kwang's mom expressed her surprise that Sejin could really hear them. She thanked Sejin for caring for her and her son, leaving Sejin with no choice but to accept Kwang as his own. As Kwang expressed his hunger for honey, green onions, sweet potatoes, and fish, Sejin promised to prepare something special for him. Heading to the potato field, Sejin discovered strength potatoes growing on a single plant. These nutritious and delicious potatoes, graded C due to Sejin's grade reaching C, had the remarkable ability to break down 30 grams of fat in the body and increase strength by 0.5 for 10 minutes. Sejin steamed the potatoes in a large container and announced it was time to eat. Meanwhile, the rabbits had prepared other food items like roasted fish and corn. Everyone gathered happily to eat, and Sejin felt that this day was worth documenting in his diary of adventures in the tower. He believed that only good things awaited him from now on. Watching him through the crystal ball, the tower manager Aileen smiled as she enjoyed her steamed potatoes. Everyone gathered outside the cave as the bear cub, Kwang, threw a tantrum, crying that he wanted to stay beside his dad. His mom tried to calm him down while Sejin ignored him and asked Theo about his bundle. Theo confirmed that he had packed it full of green onion plants with the help of the wolf employees. Turning to the bear cub, Sejin asked if he would continue acting childishly. With tears in his eyes, Kwang replied that his dad had told him to stay behind and protect his sister, the queen bee. Sejin persuaded Kwang to calm down, promising to return from his journey soon. Touching foreheads with Kwang, Sejin assured him of his trust in his dad. Elka, the leader of the wolves, called Sejin and offered to escort him. Sejin rode on Elka's back with the black rabbit and Theo. Sejin informed the Minotaur couple, Ox number 3 and Ox number 4, that it was time to depart for the waypoint where the Minotaur king resided. They began their journey, with Kwang waving them goodbye. Thanks to Elka's fast sprinting speed, they quickly covered the vast distance between Sejin's field and the Minotaur territory. Sejin praised Elka's speed, but Theo and the black rabbit covered their eyes due to the strong dust. Spotting a dark and eerie patch of hills, Sejin asked what it was. Ox number 3 explained that it was where the jerks lived, though that wasn't much of an explanation. Ox number 4 provided more details, explaining that even on the 99th floor, there were many territories. The dark forest ahead belonged to the corrupt beings of the West. Sejin was curious, but was warned not to go near the place. Ox number 4 stressed the danger and urged him to stay away. Sejin decided to ask Aileen for more details later. They took the long way to avoid the dark patch, but suddenly, a ball of mud hit Sejin in the face, knocking him off his ride. Theo was the first to react, followed by Ox number 3 and Elka, who were shocked that someone had dared to hit the great black dragon. Sejin got up and assured everyone that he was okay as he wiped the mud from his face. After glancing at the mud on his hands, he looked ahead and spotted a herd of Minotaur munching on mud. Sejin realized they were eating mud because there was nothing else to eat in that place. He also understood that this scarcity of food was why they went berserk at the sight of anything green. As Sejin sat on the ground, the black rabbit joined him and invited Theo to join them. However, Theo acted like a spoiled brat and refused to come down because he didn't want to step in the mud. Ox number 4 took charge and demanded to know who threw food at their guests. A Minotaur with blonde hair approached them and questioned why they had been away for so long in such a friendly manner. He then noticed the guests and demanded Ox number 3 hand over any toys they had brought. This earned him a punch from Ox number 4, who declared they had no time to waste and must go see the Minotaur king immediately. A Minotaur rushed to inform the king that the Minotaur couple had returned with some unfamiliar guests. Before the king could inquire further, Ox number 3 and Ox number 4 appeared before him, announcing they had brought guests from the Red Fur territory. This made the other Minotaur anxious. The Minotaur king was relieved they had come to him and welcomed the white farmer rabbits, mistaking them for allies of the Red Fur. However, he was surprised to see that the only white thing among them was Sejin's t-shirt. He questioned Sejin's identity, as he had never encountered humans before. Despite the misunderstanding, the king commended Sejin for coming all the way there. Leaning on his throne, he mentioned tasting the grass they farmed a few days ago and acknowledged Sejin's struggle to survive on the 99th floor with his weak powers. The king promised to help Sijin if he faced any injustice under the Mama Bear's rule, showing concern for weaker monsters like him. He then granted Sijin and his group permission to speak freely. Sijin clarified some misunderstandings. He told the Minotaur King that he didn't work for the Mama Bear, but rather she and her baby helped him. Secondly, he wasn't there to seek protection from unfair treatment, but to voice a complaint. Sijin approached the Minotaur King and explained that 3 days prior, something had been taken from his farm. With a confident smirk, he warned the king that unless he wanted to be seen as a thief, he needed to make things right by compensating him. However, the Minotaur King reacted harshly to Sijin's accusation, angrily challenging him to repeat his words. He crushed a rock underfoot in his fury, questioning how someone as lowly as Sijin could dare to accuse him, the mighty ruler of the 99th floor, of theft. Sijin stood his ground, barely keeping his hat from flying off in the face of the Minotaur King's intimidating roar. Despite this, he pressed on, asking what else the king could be if not a thief. Even Theo chimed in to support Sijin's stance. This confrontation caused the other Minotaur to begin doubting their king's innocence. They pondered if their leader had indeed stolen the grass they had consumed 3 days earlier. Seeing his followers question him, the Minotaur King quickly changed his tune, claiming there had been a misunderstanding. He explained that, as the guardian of the waypoint, he was limited in his actions away from his post. He admitted to taking the grass in haste but assured Sijin that he intended to repay him. Though still uneasy, the Minotaur King laughed off the situation and asked Sijin what he desired as compensation. Sijin surprised the king by requesting the use of the waypoint. The Minotaur King, taken aback, agreed to grant Sijin's wish. Excited at the prospect of leaving the tower, Sijin eagerly approached the waypoint platform. However, as he reached out to touch the floating crystal, a system message appeared before him. It informed Sijin that the waypoint on the 99th floor had been saved, but since he had never been to another floor, there was no other waypoint stored in his data. Shocked and dismayed, Sijin realized he couldn't move to another floor. The Minotaur King speculated that Sijin, being an outsider to the tower, hadn't registered himself on the waypoints of each floor as required. With his hopes of escape shattered, Sijin sank to his knees in despair, realizing he was trapped in the tower. Sijin sat on his knees before the waypoint, feeling like everything he cherished had been snatched away by some divine force. Theo, worried, tried to comfort him, but Sijin quickly shook off his depression, at least outwardly. He sighed, admitting that ever since he learned this place was on the 99th floor, he had a deep-down feeling he couldn't escape. Confirming this fact now made him a bit sad. The Minotaur King loomed behind him, seeming to have other thoughts. He apologized for Sijin's depressing situation but declared their deal fulfilled. Sijin, lacking the energy to fight back, acknowledged this, standing and telling the Minotaur King he was no longer indebted. The Minotaur King, unwilling to take chances, urged Sijin to leave, but Sijin interrupted, suggesting an offer instead. Furious, the Minotaur King couldn't believe Sijin, a mere mortal, would dare to make such a proposal. Unfazed, Sijin instructed Theo to open his bundle, revealing a cascade of freshly harvested green onion leaves. The Minotaur, including the king, were amazed and drooling at the sight of the familiar tasty grass. Sijin explained it was a gesture of goodwill, aiming to foster better relations with their neighbors on the 99th floor. The Minotaur King, entranced by the offer, was too focused on the gift to hear anything else. Sijin then revealed his true intention. Expanding his fields required more manpower. If they collaborated, everyone could enjoy this delicious grass 3 times a day. With a wink, Sijin proposed a deal. Meanwhile, outside Sijin's cave, the baby cub awaited his father's return, transforming into a chunky bundle of sadness. Spotting Sijin's arrival thrilled Kuang, who rushed to his side, declaring his dad was back. The queen bee and her offspring followed suit. Kuang snuggled with Sijin, proudly claiming he'd been well behaved, not even crying as he licked his human dad. The father rabbit arrived and noticed Sijin's quick return. He asked if the negotiations went well, to which Sijin replied affirmatively. Then Sijin signaled to someone in the distance, prompting a group of Minotaur to appear, stunning the parent rabbits. The Minotaur, having understood their job from Sijin, knew they were there to dig the ground. Seeing the shocked rabbits, Sijin explained that the Minotaur were there to help plow the field. He revealed that he struck a deal with the Minotaur King for permission to use the entire wasteland on the 99th floor. The eager Minotaur asked where to start. Meanwhile, Kuang cheered for them, amazed by their muscles. He approached the Minotaur, complimenting their strength, Impressed by Koing's bravery, the Minotaur were eager to follow him and start working. Sejin admired Koing's cuteness as he watched him go, then decided it was time to prepare food for the Minotaur workers. While the farmer rabbits were eager to join him, Theo lazily slept on the wolf, dreaming about churros. At the Minotaur stronghold, they held a rock-paper-scissors tournament to decide who would work in Sejin's field for the next day. 10 winners were chosen, and Ox number 3 acted as their coordinator, promising to take them to Sejin Field the next day. The Minotaur King watched his cheerful minions, hoping their help would turn the wasteland into grassland again, believing in Sejin's plan. The next day, the poison bees got to work early, filling glass bottles with honey. Sejin was amazed by the amount they produced. He gave Koning a bottle of honey, cautioning him to eat it sparingly. Then he asked the mama bear if she was going deep into the forest, knowing the blue moon was approaching. Sejin said that in that case he would pack them a lot of food along with some extra bottles of honey. Koing got excited to hear it. Just then, Elka nervously told Sejin that the wolves must also go down to their home to face the blue moon. Sejin told him not to worry about anything because he had prepared a meal for them too. Behind him was a literal mountain of crayfish and panas among other food items. Sejin remarked that the Black Rabbit had made many trips to the Sea of Dimensions to hunt enough seafood for them. The wolves freaked out on seeing a large amount of food, and they bowed down to thank the Black Rabbit, who told them that it was no big deal. Then Sejin started wondering how the wolves would carry this much food. Elka told him that they also had their simple assisting bundles that could carry a lot of things, even though they couldn't be compared to a merchant's bundle. The 3 wolves threw their assisting bundles in the air, and the food got sucked into them completely. With that, they prepared to take off and told Sejin that they would meet him again after the blue moon ended. Kwani and his mom also joined them as they were going in the same direction. Sejin waved them goodbye with the Black Rabbit by his side. He thought that since everything else was sorted, he should also start preparing for the blue moon. He looked a bit tense, and Aileen quickly wondered if Sejin was worried for his fields again. Sejin admitted that he was a bit uneasy since the blue moon was approaching, and Aileen asked him if she could tell him to trust in her already. She asked him if he didn't see her step in and subdue the monsters during the blue moon for him, and he replied that she did. Whenever the blue moon appeared, the monsters went berserk. A month ago, during the last blue moon, Sejin often thought about it when Ox number 3 ruined his outside field. Everyone tried to minimize the damage their actions caused by going away from the fields or staying hidden. That worked for the fields inside the cave, but the fields outside were still defenseless, and they held the vast majority of his green onion crops. Sejin shared these concerns of his with Aileen, and she told him that she would protect the field. He didn't understand just how she was going to protect the field, but he was now sure that the black dragon he saw during the first blue moon was Aileen. He told her that he believed in her, and the great black dragon was happy to receive praise from Sejin. She told Sejin to believe in her and plant a lot of crops. With that, she started stretching to begin her preparations for the blue moon. Aileen opened the doors of her cabin and climbed up a huge staircase to reach the top of her tower. On the top floor, there were huge magic stones that looked exactly like the waypoint. It was a dragon home, which was a black tower situated on a floating island high above the clouds of the 99th floor, which was even more vast than previously revealed. Aileen took in the refreshing breeze because it had been a long time since she left her room. With that, she began her preparations. Aileen used her authority as the tower manager and activated the system, starting the magic circle, and with multiple system windows open in front of her, she declared that it was finally her turn to step in. All the preparations to withstand the blue moon were completed. The rabbits were tucked away safely in their snug homes to shield them from the effects of the blue moon. Sejin created a secure spot among the rocks to protect a tiny flame. He felt content with his handiwork, remarking that safeguarding the embers was all that mattered to keep the fire burning. Suddenly, he heard a cry and turned around to find Theo cuddling the young baby rabbits, tears streaming down his face. He expressed surprise that the adorable yellow babies were now growing up. While touched by this, Sejin was less pleased with Theo's reaction. He instructed the cat merchant to stay hidden, anticipating the unpredictable timing of the blue moon. Theo reluctantly complied but was reluctant to leave the rabbit babies. He entrusted Sejin with their care and urged him to alert him if anything happened. Sejin reassured him and handed Theo a special item for safekeeping, a cocoon from the queen bee. Theo was surprised by this gift. Sejin explained that the queen bee had left it for him before sealing her hive, signaling the growth of more beehives. Despite the increase, moments like these posed challenges. Theo promised to safeguard the cocoon in his soft fur. As the sky darkened, Sejin realized the blue moon had arrived. The cave soon echoed with the cries and roars of the baby rabbits, transforming into ferocious creatures under the blue light. Sejin, though familiar with the sight, couldn't help but feel unsettled. Suddenly, he heard a roar from outside the cave, alarming him. He wondered why monsters were present when they shouldn't be. Despite wanting to see if Aileen had arrived to handle the situation, he was met with murderous rabbits staring at him. Confused by their aggression, he remembered that they should have turned into normal adults swiftly. Ignoring his attempts to reason, they lunged at him. Terrified, Sejin screamed for help, but relief washed over him as the black dragon, Aileen, soared overhead. The rabbits froze in fear, allowing Sejin to breathe a sigh of relief. Meanwhile, outside the cave, a bizarre and eerie tree monster known as the branch ant appeared in Sejin's field, driven mad by the blue moon. However, upon spotting the mighty black dragon, it fled in terror. However, the black dragon in the sky wasn't Aileen, but just a hologram. The real Aileen was in her tower, controlling the hologram using her dragon technology. She laughed while asking anyone who might listen what they thought of her performance. This illusionary magic tool was created for her by her grandfather. It was especially helpful during the blue moon when Aileen couldn't leave the administrator area but still wanted to keep the monsters in check. On top of that, Aileen tweaked the hologram a bit to make it look like her adult version. She could remotely control the hologram over the entire 99th floor. However, it was only effective if it was as high as the clouds and would disappear if it got closer to the ground. Aileen then giggled to herself, thinking that Sejin would believe that was what she really looked like. She was pleased with that and decided to fly the holographic dragon a bit more before the blue moon ended. Back in the cave, Sejin was really impressed that the monsters had quieted down since Aileen appeared. Suddenly, he noticed a bright light coming from the murderous-looking rabbits, and they instantly transformed into fuzzy bundles of cuteness. Seeing the rabbits turn into proper adults was a relief to Sejin. He hugged them, telling them how glad he was to see them as adults, but the rabbits he'd hugged told him to loosen his grip. The other rabbits called him uncle and asked him what happened. Sejin would answer their question, but then he saw the blue moonlight hitting his crops, and a whole bunch of them sparkled after absorbing it. He was happy and said they should harvest the blue moon crop soon. Afterward, he steamed some regular sweet potatoes and blue sweet potatoes side by side. He laid them out on a giant platter along with some blue cherry tomatoes. Well, some of the blue sweet potatoes were not the normal kind, but actually the sweet sun pumpkin potatoes, and there were also some strength potatoes in the mix. Sejin counted them all and said they harvested 13 blue cherry tomatoes, 3 blue potatoes, and 7 blue sweet potatoes this time. That seemed less than the number of glowing plants. Sejin thanked Aileen for helping him out and presented a bowl of blue moon crops to her. He told her that the potatoes and sweet potatoes were hot, so she had to cool them down before eating. Aileen thanked him and also told Sejin to leave all the issues of the blue moon to her in the future as well. With that, Aileen received Sejin's offering. As she lay in her comfy bed, she covered her wings with pillows and even had a cloth over her eyes because she was tired from operating the hologram. However, she thought it was worth it because she got some blue moon crops. Even though the sweet potatoes were comparable to a peanut in her hand, she thought she should try out the remedy to cure her dragon heart. She ate 1 sweet potato and 1 pumpkin and found that her heart was really beating normally, unlike the last time when it was abrupt. This time, Aileen could feel a stable flow of mana. Suddenly, she got a system message in front of her. Aileen wondered what the meaning of the message was. As she read it, it said that the achievement of reproducing the forgotten dish, honey sweet potatoes, had been accomplished. Aileen realized that this could only mean one thing, and she looked into her magic orb to find Sejin pouring a generous amount of honey on a blue potato. She was not happy that he was doing this. Aileen complained about how dare he give her only potatoes while he was creating a delicious dish for himself. However, she suddenly got another system message telling her that she could award the one who accomplished the forgotten dish achievement with a special job skill. Aileen laughed to herself, thinking that she would give Sejin something perfect for his tower occupation. Back at the cave, Sejin's special dish was finally finished. Besides the taste being boosted by the energy of the blue moon, this dish could also permanently increase the mana of whoever ate it by 0.3 points. Sejin thought that potatoes with honey were just as tasty as potatoes with salt, and he was eager to try it. The rabbits also seemed interested in the dish. Sejin offered to share the blue moon crops with them, but one of the responsible rabbits stepped in. He reminded the others of what their dad had said. They were supposed to give all the blue moon crops to Sejin because he was weak. Sejin felt deeply hurt by this comment and apologized to the rabbits for his weakness. They encouraged him to eat the blue potatoes while they settled for the normal ones and sweet potatoes. Sejin accepted their offer and took a bite of the honey potato. He found the taste wonderful and felt like he could get addicted to it. Suddenly, a system window popped up, informing him that his mana had been permanently increased by 3 points. Another system window appeared, notifying him that he had achieved the reproduction of the forgotten dish, honey potatoes. Sejin couldn't believe he had an achievement for simply putting honey on a steamed potato. Aileen messaged him, confirming his achievement and giving him a new quest to treat the tower manager to the honey potato. The reward was a job skill, and as always, the penalty for refusing was the disappointment of the tower manager. Sejin was still amazed by everything that was happening, but was curious about the job skill, so he accepted the quest. He asked Aileen if he could use a normal potato instead, and she agreed. Sejin poured honey over a bowl of normal potatoes and completed his quest. As a reward, he acquired the cooking skill, which slightly improved the taste and effectiveness of dishes made using ingredients grown in the tower. Sejin was shocked to learn he had cooking skills, and another screen popped up displaying the list of registered recipes, which only contained the honey potato. Sejin couldn't believe he had cooking skills now and wondered if he should become a chef as a side job after being a farmer. But first, he decided to make more honey potatoes for everyone. He asked the rabbits for help, and they eagerly agreed. With this, Sejin found an event worth mentioning in his diary of getting lost in the tower today. The 8th blue moon passed by peacefully. In the western part of the 99th floor, there was a place called the Dark Forest, where strange creatures lived. Among the eerie trees, a lonely branch creature was quietly making its way. This was the same tree monster that had approached Sejin's farm earlier, but got scared off by Aileen. It moved cautiously through the woods. However, it accidentally tripped over a root sticking out of the ground and fell. But this was no ordinary root. A giant, menacing wooden claw emerged and captured the confused branch ant. It struggled and cried out for freedom, but it was helpless against the creature's grip. Then suddenly, the giant claw smashed the branch ant to the ground, crushing it completely. The attacker was a huge tree monster known as the Corrupted Ant, the same one the Minotaur had cryptically warned Sejin about earlier. It resembled a dead, dry tree with multiple red eyes in its hollow cavity. As the blue moon faded away and the sun returned to the sky, the Corrupted Ant fled deeper into the forest, avoiding the light. It was not alone, as there were many other corrupted ants in the forest, each as menacing as the last. Meanwhile, Sejin was peacefully enjoying lunch and tea with his rabbit friends. He didn't notice a small sapling growing under the burnt green onion leaves nearby. What could it be? Only time will tell. On another part of the floor, Elka and his 2 subordinates had returned to their tribe on the 75th floor. Everyone was happy, with a pile of food in front of them. Elka distributed the food, even giving a fish to a baby wolf who thanked him. However, when another wolf asked if he was leaving right away, Elka explained that he had to go since the blue moon was over. Turns out, the second wolf was Elka's wife, who asked him to stay a bit longer so their kids could see him when they woke up. Elka, now serving the great black dragon, couldn't waste time and promised to return soon. With that, he left for the 99th floor with his trusted minions. At the same time, in the passageway village, someone was running for their life from pursuers. Onlookers watched with curiosity as 3 gray rabbits fled, one lagging behind. As they were cornered, a jackal mercenary caught up to them, striking one into the air while his partner blocked the path of the others. Terrified, the rabbits gasped as they found themselves trapped. Their screams reached the sensitive ears of Elka as he turned around to see where they were coming from. His underlings asked if they shouldn't leave, but Elka's attention was drawn elsewhere. Meanwhile, a jackal mercenary had caught a rabbit by its throat, calling it a slave and demanding to know where it was trying to escape. Another rabbit lay beneath his foot as he mocked their attempt to outrun them, suggesting they'd have rabbit meat for dinner. He chuckled, saying their boss wouldn't notice if one rabbit went missing. As the jackal prepared to devour the rabbit, a heady punch slammed into his head, forcing his mouth shut. Elka's blow sent the jackal crashing to the ground, and the wolf chieftain caught the rabbit. The other jackal, recognizing Elka as Grid's subordinate, nervously asked why they were being attacked. He claimed they were chasing runaway slaves and warned Elka of their landlord's displeasure if he found out. Elka dismissed their threats, threatening to bite off the jackal's throat with his sharp fangs. Terrified, the jackal abandoned the rabbits and retreated with his injured partner. Elka's subordinates arrived. Concerned by his actions, he apologized, admitting he couldn't resist. Deciding to take the rabbits along to avoid their capture by the jackals, Elka reasoned they could be useful to the Great Black Dragon, whom he believed to be Sejun on the 99th floor. Meanwhile, Sejun gathered everyone for a big announcement. He proudly declared that after consuming the Blue Moon crops, his mana had finally reached 10. However, his excitement was met with a weak response, and Theo, in a confrontational mood, questioned the significance of such a rookie achievement. Ignoring Theo's interruption, Sejun announced his ability to extract a new skill from the eel's innards. Unfazed by Sejun's outburst, Theo expressed his desire to sleep, prompting Sejun to urge him to witness his new skill. Sejun then indulged in the delicious taste of the eel's innards, reminiscent of orange soda. After he finished eating, a system window popped up in front of him, informing him that he had learned the skill Rain and Thunder at level 1. However, due to a lack of sufficient mana to use the skill properly, it remained locked. The two sub-skills, Make It Rain and Throw Thunder, were sealed for safety reasons. Currently, Sejun could only create dark clouds with his mana, and if the conditions were right, there was a low chance of rain. Sejun panicked at the system's message, questioning how it could be rain and thunder if both aspects were sealed. Despite his confusion, he decided to explore the abilities available to him. Using his power, he managed to create clouds, but they were disappointingly small, only covering a limited area. While Sejun felt disheartened by his lackluster performance, Kwang was impressed and applauded. Sejun, feeling down, expended 1/3 of his total mana to try again, but the result remained minuscule. Theo patted Sejun, reminding him that he was still the chairman despite being weak. Kwang approached Sejun, complimenting his magic and assuring him that it would improve over time. Moved by Kwang's encouragement, Sejun was brought to tears and embraced the bear cub, expressing gratitude. Meanwhile, Theo continued to tease Sejun, lying on his lap and joking about the sun's interference. Just as Sejun was trying to cope with the mixed emotions, Elka and his crew returned, accompanied by 3 shivering rabbits. Sejun inquired about the newcomers, noticing their injuries and distress. The rabbits pleaded with Sejun not to harm them, revealing their connection to the other rabbits present. Sejun was puzzled by their emotional reunion and asked for an explanation. Before Elka could respond, the mother and father rabbits arrived, shocked to see the gray rabbits alive. Their emotional reunion left Sejun wondering about their connection and eager to learn more. Soon after, Sejun and his friends watched as the gray rabbits chomped down their food, looking surprised. The rabbits were eating like they hadn't had a meal in ages, which was pretty close to the truth. One rabbit got too excited with its carrots and ended up choking. The mother rabbit quickly offered water, while Sejun advised the gray rabbits to slow down and enjoy their meal since the food wasn't going anywhere. Grateful, the gray rabbit gulped down water and called Sejun the Great Black Dragon, a term it learned from the wolves. Sejun simply asked to be called by his name, explaining that the title was too long to mention and they were all family, so there was no need for formalities. Elka got flustered but eventually agreed. As Sejun looked at the gray rabbits, Theo jumped onto his lap, demanding treats. Each of the gray rabbits had unique skills. One was an artist, another a woodworker, and the third an architect. Impressed, Sejun wanted to hear their story. They confirmed they had fled from an exploitative farm, with Elka rescuing them. The revelation that they had come from the 55th floor shocked everyone, especially the father rabbit, who started asking about the kingdom they came from, especially the royal family and monsters. Confused, Sejun asked the father rabbit to calm down and explain some things. The father rabbit's mood darkened as he recounted the history of the Red Ribbon Kingdom, their once peaceful home. Thanks to hardworking farmer rabbits, they had abundant crops and a rich culture with artists and professionals. But decades ago, tragedy struck when monstrous hornet-like creatures attacked, destroying everything. Only one brave black rabbit tried to defend them but tragically failed. The kingdom fell into ruins, leaving behind a sorrowful tale. As the father rabbit finished his grim story, he mentioned that the monsters had appeared out of nowhere, leaving everyone devastated. During the chaos of destruction, the king, queen, and princess vanished, leaving the people without leaders. They scattered, trying to flee the place while dodging monsters. The rabbit couple was lucky enough to escape. Sejun found it odd to see rabbits on the 99th floor since it didn't seem like their habitat. The father rabbit explained that bug-type monsters had taken over the 55th floor, and they never expected survivors there. The gray rabbit added that their family and others who couldn't escape were awaiting certain doom. Suddenly, the monsters disappeared, and someone awaited them in the wasteland that used to be their kingdom. Elka interrupted and furiously mentioned Grid, the greedy wild boar landlord who had taken control of the 55th floor and enslaved the rabbits. The rabbits were now forced to work on a farm instead of their usual activities. Unable to bear it anymore, the rabbits cried out in despair. Sejin comforted them and suggested they rest. He asked the black rabbit to guide them to a cave and offer them a place to sleep. After they left, Sejin recalled that Grid was the one who hired the wolves to search for the Straw Hat. Elka confirmed Grid's influence in the tower's food distribution, making Sejin nervous. Elka reassured him that Grid wouldn't reach the 99th floor because no mercenaries would escort him there, as most were afraid of stronger monsters. Sejin felt relieved, knowing Grid wouldn't chase after the rabbits for now. Meanwhile, on the 55th floor, what used to be the palace of the Red Ribbon Kingdom that has transformed into Grid's castle. Seated on his throne, Grid, the greedy pig, scolded two jackal mercenaries, challenging them to repeat their words. Terrified, the jackals confessed that the silver wolf, Elka, had betrayed them and taken the rabbits they were after. One jackal even showed his wound to Grid. Grid's assistant chimed in, casting doubt on Elka's trustworthiness from the start, but Grid dismissed Elka's betrayal, predicting that Elka would come begging for help once food in the tower ran out. Grid asked his assistant about their preparations, and the pig assured him that they were controlling food distribution despite some complaints from the Tower and Merchants Association. Grid laughed, envisioning taking over the entire tower, not just one kingdom or floor, but the entire tower, relishing in his power-hungry ambition. Meanwhile, on the 99th floor, Sejin woke up from a peaceful sleep and moved over Theo, who wanted to sleep more, to the side. Sejin headed to the pond to freshen up and was amazed to find a wooden wash basin fed by a green onion pipe and a ladle. He speculated that the gray rabbits might have built and created them. While washing his hair, Theo called out to Sejin, leading him to another part of the cave where the mother rabbit was cooking over a stone stove with the help of her children. Sejin marveled at the rabbit's creation, a safe and efficient stove, along with a dining table and utensils. Theo proudly showed Sejin a bowl made by the rabbits, complete with Theo's paw print, and informed him of the rabbits' gratitude for sheltering them. Sejin then discovered the three rabbits talking to the sickle rabbit, thanking her for looking out for them. He then called them over, and the three rabbits formally thanked Sejin and offered their skills to repay the debt. Sejin was touched and offered the rabbits a job, though they didn't quite understand what he meant.